What's up, everybody? Welcome to Moxie Bets, presented by Caesar Sportsbook. I'm Katie Mox. Today, we're talking UFC 300 with our guy. Usually, we like to call him Monday Danny or Mr. Monday, but today he is Miami Danny because he is coming to us straight from Miami on vacation. Danny, thanks for hopping on with us. Yeah, there he is. There he is. He just put the sunglasses on. He's got the Yankees hat on. He's got a little bit of a tan, which I find mildly offensive because I would like to have a little bit of a tan. But Danny, how are we doing?
I'm doing great, Katie. Last time I did Moxie bets for Miami. I don't want to pat myself on the back too hard before we give these picks, but I swept the board. Maybe Danny Miami, as you called me, has that juju going, that good vibes, and manifesting some cash for our viewers today. So let's get it.
I mean, I believe. Before we get started, some breaking news just happened. O.J. Simpson has unfortunately passed away and succumbed to his battle with cancer. Danny, I didn't even know that he was battling cancer. Obviously, quite the polarizing figure, one of the greatest, football players and athletes to ever live. And then, there was the whole trial that happened, and he did end up spending some time in jail for stealing back his memorabilia. But any thoughts on OJ? I mean, it's just kind of shocking. I don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah, tough to make a comment without polarizing the entire internet. It became very racial, the trial, right? It became a lot about, about that and beyond the crime that he may or may not have committed. One of the most insane defenses ever. If the glove don't fit, right? It's been going to be studied in law schools forever and ever. So, that's all I have to say.
Yep. All right. Just wanted to touch on it for a second. All right. This is being billed as hard left now. This is being billed as one of the greatest fight cards ever assembled. Danny, which fight are you looking forward to the most?
I mean, every single fight on this card could be a main event on a fight night card, right? I mean, this is absolutely electric. You don't want to miss one fight on this card. If you're making me pick one that I'm most looking forward to, I think it has to be the main event, corny enough as that is, right? Cliche enough, but there's so much opposing opinions here. I think a lot of people are already jumping at the current light heavyweight champion, Alex Pereira, who quite possibly is the best, most beautifully technical kickboxer to watch in the UFC, against Jamahal Hill, who is a short underdog that people are seemingly counting out of the fight early on. I think he's got a ton to prove coming back from Achilles surgery, and I think everyone's excited to see a fan favorite in Alex Pereira potentially defend that title. So a lot on the line there to prove for both legacies, I believe.
Okay, some legacies on the line. I love that. All right, so let's just get started and take a look at some of these fights. The lightweight title, you got Alex Pereira, as that you said, Pereira.
Light heavyweight,
he's
that's
minus
right.
one. Light heavyweight, yes. Alex Pereira versus Jamahal Hill. And you just said lot to prove for Jamahal Hill. So who do you like in this one?
Yeah, people are, it's not going to be too popular of a pick, I think, but I'm going with the underdog, Jamahal Sweet Dreams Hill, Katie. Like I said, Alex Pereira, perhaps the best kickboxer.
Does he come out to Sweet Dreams are made of these?
He should. He's actually
be his. Okay.
He's been posting on his social media, what should my walkout be? He's so funny. I also call him the king of comedy in the UFC. And he's been polling fans, hey, what should be my walkout? I voted on stripper, where he's going to walk out doing like the whole hoochie mama kind of dance. So I voted stripper. But he posted all sorts of different walk. He's so funny. He's a great personality. And man, I like his style in this fight, Katie. Of course, the kickboxing from Alex Pereira is a thing of beauty. We know about his fights with Israel Adesanya, both in the UFC for the middleweight championship, won a piece there, and in a kickboxing league before he came to the UFC. He was sort of the boogeyman for Israel Adesanya, the only guy that could quite have his number. So now he's up at light heavyweight. First fight against Yuri Prochazka, who's also on this fight card. He took that belt. This will be his first title defense. I think everyone's just going to run to say it's going to be an Alex Pereira left hook, which is an absolute granite punch. It's going to be an Alex Pereira low kick. His low kicks are punishing, devastating, immobilizing. But I think Hill is awkward yet technical. He has this intangible about him. He has the heart of a lion, Katie. And I think he's going to come forward, keep coming forward until that pressure mounts. And I don't think you can put Hill away. If he takes Alex Pereira to a dark place, advantage Hill. Take him to that dark place and reclaim your light heavyweight title. Katie, I'll say one more thing. He's coming back from Achilles surgery. That's the big red flag for everyone. But here's what quells my concerns there. Do you know who his doctor was? The same man who repaired Kobe Bryant's Achilles, who came back super Mamba mentality, like nothing happened. The same man who repaired Tom Brady's knee. This is a renowned doctor. If Hill's 100%, I got him winning this fight, Katie.
Well, what about Aaron Rodgers? Who did Aaron Rodgers? Because that guy, you never even thought he tore his Achilles. He was out there, trotting midway through the
Was
season.
was it? I don't know.
I
His
don't know.
name is
Yeah.
Dr. Neil El Atrash. I think I'm saying is
Oh.
Atrache. I'm probably butchering it, but Dr. Neil is that guy. And Jamal Hill went and sought the best of the best for his Achilles care. Let's see what it does for him.
Let's move on to the women's strawweight title. You got Zhang Weili at minus 480. She's the big time favorite here versus Yan Xiaonan at plus 360. What do you like here?
This is also not going to be too popular of a pick, Katie. Now, I'm going to introduce our viewers to spread betting in MMA. For the uninitiated, it's fairly new. You can bet on a point spread for a fighter. Yeah, and the way that works is it is according to the judges' combined scorecards. So if the fight goes to decision, the judges will read off their scores, like 48, 47, 49, 46. It's going to be a 5-round fight. And if Yan Xiaonan can cover plus 5.5, basically meaning she loses in a very close fight or wins, then she's going to cash this at plus 165. Now, a lot of people are going to like Weili Zhang. She's looking to be one of the best UFC female fighters ever. She's putting together a Hall of Fame resume. And I got to be honest, Katie, she's probably my favorite female fighter in the UFC. I absolutely love her style. She's only gotten better. But I think the line is too wide. It's just getting out of control. Yan Xiaonan has been training at Team Alpha Male with a head coach I really like, Uriah Faber. And her takedown defense has gotten a lot better. I like her boxing. I like her power. Weili is going to have to take this fight to the floor, I think, and use a heavy dose of wrestling. And if that's not working early on, I feel like that minus 500 ticket in your pocket is going to look kind of ugly. So I'm not sprinting and saying Weili is just going to work her and dominate this fight. I think Yan Xiaonan is a hard-nosed fighter that's only getting better. I'm going to sprinkle her at plus 380, and I'm going to take the plus 5.5 for a little bit of a more secure bet.
Okay, so hedging a little bit there with that one. This is the first time in UFC history with two Chinese fighters in a title fight. Kind of a big deal. Pretty exciting.
Yeah, and to play a little narrative game, of course, I'm just speculating here, but the UFC has sort of been talking about doing a UFC China card, right? A lot more Chinese fighters coming into the fold, and they're always looking to gain market share in international markets, right? And increase their presence internationally. What if Yan steals the strawweight belt from Weili and they do the rematch in Beijing on a UFC China card and feature all sorts of Asian fighters? I think that would be awesome.
That would be super awesome. All right, well, I'm going to root for that. Okay, let's move on to the lightweight matchup. You got Justin Gaethje. He's at minus 155 versus Max Holloway at plus 130. You kind of been a little bit interested in the dogs here today. Is this one where you're looking at Max Holloway?
You know it, Katie. The dogs are going to bark on UFC 300. And look, for viewers looking at this, maybe disagreeing with some of my dog picks, I don't have to get them all right to be profitable, right? If we're hitting 45, 50%, we're crushing. So I'm going to back a lot of dogs. And Holloway is a dog that I absolutely love. Katie, I bet him at plus 190. Look where the line is now. Drastically shifted for Holloway. I'm going to do something similar as well.
Now, is that because a lot of money is coming in on Holloway? You think that's why this line shifted?
Definitely a lot of money coming in on him. I think the odds were set way too wide. I think Justin Gaethje's line was a little bit inflated from his last performance. To take nothing away from him, he's an absolutely electrifying striker. But he hit Dustin Poirier with a perfect head kick, a perfect strike. And after you come off a perfect knockout like that, sometimes the line is just a little bit inflated. So Max Holloway coming up to lightweight for this fight. He's normally fighting at featherweight. But he's packed on a ton of muscle, Katie. I think people are starting to realize, man, this is a new-looking Holloway. I think he's going to maybe deliver one of his best performances of his career. He's fought at lightweight before against Dustin Poirier, a guy I just mentioned, and he lost that fight, but it was on 8 days' notice, and he gave Dustin everything he could in an absolute war. With a full training camp to prepare, with a bulked-up Holloway, we might see the best version of him yet. So I'm going to sprinkle him on the money line. I like that play, but I also like plus 5.5 at plus 100 as well if this is a close fight.
So, Danny, this is the second time on this card that we've talked about somebody kind of changing weight classes. How normal is that?
It's getting more and more popular in the UFC. A lot of guys, especially champions, they want to go achieve the double champ status, which means you're a champion in 2 different weight classes at the same time. It's getting a little frustrated because, before you move to a new weight class, you want to see some of these guys defend the belt, take down some of the other contenders, give other guys a chance before they just kind of skip on to a new division. But mixed martial arts is interesting in that, there's so many different styles and physiques and backgrounds and trainings that you can kind of move around divisions and potentially have success in higher or lower weight classes. So it's getting quite popular to do, but some fans are kind of groaning because they want to see the champions stay in their class and defend a little longer.
Yeah, I just don't think you should be able to move up and down like that. That does seem a little bit frustrating. All right, but you're going Holloway. You're taking him on the spread plus the 5.5 and even money, but you might even sprinkle a little bit on the money line there.
Oh, absolutely. I got him plus 190. He's down to plus 135.
Yeah,
I'm loving the value I got
yeah.
early. I like Max Holloway, man. I think both these guys are this fight away from getting right back into title contention. So, Katie, this is for the BMF belt, the celebratory, baddest guy in the UFC. So this is the people's main event.
All right, I like it. Okay, so let's look at another lightweight fight. You got Charles Oliveira plus 180 versus Arman Tsarukyan. Is he Armenian? Tsarukyan.
Tsarukyan. That's right. You got it.
Yeah. That's I feel like that's an Armenian
I'm
last
not
name,
sure what
Kardashian,
nationality. Is
Tsarukyan.
he Tajikistani, Armenian? I'm not quite positive.
Yeah, okay. Armo, yes. Haha. I know my Armenian last names as a avid Kardashians watcher here, Danny. All right, so who do you got in this fight?
So I think this is going to be a popular underdog pick. I got Du Bronx, as people love to quote him on The Champion Has a Name, and that's Charles Du Bronx Oliveira. This is going to be an
Mm,
underdog that a lot of people will be on. Now, I see this fight a lot closer than the odds makers have made it. Sarukian is a large favorite. It's a little bit curious because, like I said, people are going to back Charles Oliveira, who is a former champion. The guy has only lost to Islam Makhachev, the lightweight champion, the only fighter he's lost to in the last 6, 7 years. I mean, it's absolutely insane. The thing about Charles and Arman, I can say, is that they both kind of fight a bit recklessly at times. So this fight comes down to one major question: who is going to make the big mistake? And I think that Arman Tsarukyan might be that guy. He's talked in interviews recently about how he's fought with his emotions in the past, and that's led to his demise in the couple notable losses that he has. I don't know if he can quickly mature and find composure and poise in the raucous Las Vegas environment for UFC 300 against this style of
yeah.
opponent who will bring the fight out of you. So I see this as a 50-50 fight, Katie. And if you're going to give me plus 185 for a 50-50 fight, I got to take Charles Oliveira.
Charles Oliveira. I love it. All right, Danny, good stuff here. You are certainly schooling me on everything UFC. We're going to get some more prelim picks for you. Don't go anywhere, guys. We're going to take a quick break. Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? 2 words: Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the type of benefits only Caesars can offer: hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app, it's an empire. Right back here on Moxie Bats with our guy, Danny Brasco, aka Miami Danny, aka the guy that you need to follow for everything UFC. I'm impressed with all the picks that you make. I'm impressed with the names that you pronounce correctly. Like, this is my guy, Danny Brasco. Okay, so let's look at some prelims here. You got Yuri Prohazka at plus 105, and then you got Alexander Rakic?
Rakic.
Rakic at minus 115. What are you doing with this one?
An unpopular favorite pick in this one. People will be on the dog. I like the favorite. Give me Alexander Rakic to get past Yuri Prohazka here. Now, Yuri was the former light heavyweight champion before Alex Pereira took it from him. And Yuri is a fan favorite because he's got this samurai swagger, this sort of really cool martial arts ethos and philosophy. And he's violent and unpredictable in the cage. He has these spinning attacks and explosive moves. He's very tough to get a read on. The problem with him is, Katie, he has no defense. He blocks punches with his forehead. And that wild man style can get him wins if you get into a firefight with him. It's tough,
Yeah.
right? But you don't want to be blocking punches with your forehead at this level against a guy like Alexander Rakic, who I believe is more athletic, is the faster guy, who might have a step on Yuri. Alexander Rakic's low kicks are punishing, and that's been such a key weapon in MMA lately. If you can immobilize your opponent's leg just by tapping that calf with low kicks, forget all the explosive moves and those spinning attacks. You're not going to be able to explode when you don't have your feet underneath you. So I like Rakic for his all-around game. He's got wrestling, he's got those low kicks, and he's got good technical boxing. I think wherever the fight goes, I'm going to end up trusting him. He was in a really good fight with the former champion, light heavyweight champion, Jan Blachowicz recently, and he hurt his leg, which caused the loss. But in that fight, he was looking really good, going toe-to-toe with an elite fighter. I think this is an even better matchup for him. So, Katie, give me Alexander Rakic at minus 115.
Rakic. Okay, I like it. Is there a prelim that you are looking forward to the most? Is there one where you see the most value?
Yeah, I got to go with Diego Lopez here, Katie. Featherweight fight. He's just a great commodity, I think, for the UFC. I'm excited that he's on this UFC 300 card. A wild man, hard-nosed striker, but a lethal jiu-jitsu player. And he's fighting a guy named Sadiq Youssef, who's been a solid featherweight for a long time. But to me, stylistically in this fight, it feels like he would need to play it kind of smart and safe, wrestle, stay technical. That's a lot easier said than done against the wild man, Diego Lopez. So I think he'll force the fight out of him. I think he'll put him in bad spots and cause Youssef to make mistakes. I think there's value at minus 135 on Diego Lopez.
So is that your best pick for UFC 300, or what's the one thing you're taking to the bank?
I'm glad you put it that way, Katie, because there's no way I'm not slapping multiple units on Jim freaking Miller as an underdog on this card. Katie, Jim Miller is the UFC's all-time leader in wins, and he's going to add another one to the win column this Saturday. He is known for his submission skills, his grappling prowess, but as he's gotten older, Katie, they always say the last thing to go is your power. And he's turned into a rugged boxer all of a sudden. The guy is willing to get in the pocket, trade with fellow strikers. And I think that's exactly what he's going to do against Bobby Green, who's known to be a slick boxer. He likes to keep his hands low, use this kind of swaggy head movement, shoulder roll, and bring the fight out of his opponents. But in his last fight, Katie, he got brutally knocked out, like really bad. And the referee let the fight continue on far too long. He sustained really, really bad damage. That was 4 months ago in December. Way too quick of a turnaround to come into this environment against an opponent like Jim Miller, who is willing to throw down. I think Bobby Green's chin might be cracked. He's 37 himself. People looking at old man Miller, near 40 years old. Bobby Green's 37. So I think Miller is going to get his hand raised in this fight, and it's going to be an epic win for him as he continues to add to his record.
I love it. All right. So for people like me that aren't as experienced in betting UFC, like what is it that you look for? Like, let's just talk like macro betting the UFC. You got people that are moving up and down in weight classes. You got people that are coming off of injury. I've had you on the show multiple times. You've talked about different training facilities that these men and women train at. Like, what are some of the key factors if you're a novice and you want to get into UFC 300 that you should look out for?
So, Katie, my biggest piece of advice would be don't play MMA math. A lot of people like to look at resumes and say, well, he beat him, so he beat him, or she beat her, so she'll beat her. But we know that's not how the game works. Styles make fights, not resumes. Yeah. So I would always look at stylistically, who do you think can prevail? Who do you think will execute their game plan? Will the wrestler be able to take the striker down and keep him down and stay safe on the ground? Or will the striker be able to avoid the ground, keep it standing, and utilize their boxing combinations or their kickboxing, right? Try to figure out whose game plan can execute against the other opponent's style. And you mentioned training camps, coaches. I love backing really intelligent camps and coaches that I think fit the fighter's profile well, right? If a certain guy moves to a new training camp, I know something might click in that guy. So I'll always follow where they're training, who their head coach is. And, it's a one-on-one sport, Katie. It's a very mental game, right? Two people locked in an octagon in a cage fight together. You better have your wits about you. So I always like following them on social media and kind of just trying to understand what headspace they're in, what kind of shape they're in. Follow the fighter and know your fighters that you're backing.
Okay, I love that. And honestly, it doesn't sound too much different from, betting the NFL. We look at the matchups there, right? How does this defense do against this particular player? So it seems very similar to that. Now, Danny, you've been betting both boxing and UFC for a long time. I know you've got your picks up on sportsline.com. You've been going on the early edge this week. So talk to us a little bit about just kind of like your journey with UFC and what you're doing and how you provide picks to people.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. So it's been awesome. As you know, lead MMA analyst over at CBS Sportsline. And now I got a show coming together called The Darce that we've been doing. We've been doing it live on social media with myself, a good friend of mine, Josh, Mr. Plus Money, and Slick Montana, two other MMA analysts. But we're looking to build that up and kind of bring our MMA pick show onto YouTube right here with Moxie Bets, where you can find some great takes every week on who we're looking at, best betting angles, and just trying to grow my presence in the MMA space online for these great companies like Omaha, doing this podcast with you, and keep giving people some good angles that I think a lot of fight fans will look past. People just very brutish opinions, not to talk down on anyone, right? But I think a lot of people who avidly watch MMA will agree with me. Like, the fans in the space can be very one-sided, can be very tunnel vision, right? He's going to beat him up. Your guy's going to get slapped, bro. It's like, look past that, man. The fight game is complex. It's dynamic. So think of all angles and try to play devil's advocate against yourself, right? It's a fight. Anything can happen.
Yeah. Well, look, if you want to bet UFC 300, I would make sure that you follow Danny on all social media at Brasco Bets, because this guy knows UFC. And just like you said, a lot of people, when it's one of the best fight cards, the biggest fight cards, we know everybody's watching. A lot of people don't bet it all the time, and they just think, oh, this guy's absolutely, they've heard the name before, right? And so, oh, Adesanya, if he's not on this card necessarily, but you're always just going to bet Adesanya, and that's not necessarily the case. Look at the matchups. If you don't understand what you're doing, make sure you follow my guy at Brasco Bets. And he has very in-depth analysis too on sportsline.com. So take a look at that. So Danny, thank you so much for joining us. We know we got to catch a flight out here soon back to New York, but I'm glad that we got in Miami Danny, because he was undefeated the last time he was on the show, and I expect nothing less from you today. And also, if you took part in our Moxie Bets bracket tournament challenge, YY2K24, you have won the challenge. Congratulations. Reach out to us on social at Moxie Bets. And then we will connect you with a producer who will get you on the show. We want to hear about how you did it, how you beat everybody. And of course, we'll get some locks from you as well. This has been Moxie Bets presented by Caesar Sportsbook. Don't forget to follow us on social. Tweet us anything that you would like at Moxie Bets. And again, follow Danny at Brasco Bets. We'll see you next time.